Yennefer of Vengerberg is a main character in the Witcher series and the love of Geralt's life. She is a powerful sorceress who would live a portion of her life alongside Geralt, with her fate tied to his. A walking dichotomy, Yennefer doesn't fit into the standard trope that many female characters tend to within fantasy stories. She's proud, stubborn, powerful, and doesn't play second fiddle to anyone. Her exceptional powers, which granted her the charmed life she lives now, are seen as a blessing and a curse, as the source of her power took away what she wants most: a family of her own. The choices she made early on in life weren't easy ones, as her desires and the means which she could obtain them were at constant odds. In this video, we will be using as much book information as possible, but some of Yennefer's backstory is expanded upon by Dandelion's records in the game, which we'll cover as well, despite them not actually being canon to the books. Yennefer was born in 1173 on the Bellatine, an annual fertility festival. Unfortunately for the baby, she was born deformed and was despised by her father for being a hunchback, and her father took out his anger on Yennefer as well as her mother in the form of physical abuse. He blamed Yen's mother for the deformity because she herself was a half-human, half-elf hybrid, and claimed that the quarter-elf blood and the mother's previous abortion had turned their daughter into a monster. Eventually, her father had had enough and left them both for another woman. Growing more and more bitter over this, Yennefer's mother began to blame her for all of her issues and started beating Yennefer as well. During their first meeting, Geralt was able to deduce that she likely lived a poor childhood, knowing that many sorceresses, despite their great beauty, were not always so stunning, stating that no beautiful woman would ever choose to become a sorceress willingly, and many of them chose this path because they had no other option. As detailed during the events of The Last Wish, unlike priestesses and druidesses who only unwillingly took ugly or crippled girls, sorcerers took anyone who showed evidence of a predisposition. If the child passed the first years of training, magic entered into the equation, straightening and evening out legs, repairing bones which had been badly knitted, patching hair lips, removing scars, birthmarks, and pock scars. The young sorceress would become attractive because the prestige of her profession demanded it. The result was pseudo-pretty women with the angry and cold eyes of ugly girls. Girls who couldn't forget their ugliness had been covered by the mask of magic, only for the prestige of their profession. And as I said, Geralt picked up on this immediately, noting her left shoulder slightly higher than her right, her nose slightly too long, her lips a touch too narrow, her chin receding a little too much, her brows a little too irregular, her eyes, well, he saw too many details, quite unnecessarily. And while the everyday man saw Yennefer as nothing but a stunning beauty, Geralt saw her flaws and loved her anyway. After initial testing confirmed her magical talent, she began her training as a sorceress at Aretuza, a magical academy located on Canary Islands. During her time there, Yennefer found it hard, and due to her past trauma, she suffered from severe depression issues, and at one point even attempted suicide by cutting both of her wrists. She did, of course, survive this, and despite her current demeanor, still struggles with her past, and despite her tumultuous upbringing, Yennefer found success under the tutelage of Tissaia de Vries. Tissaia took the malformed Yennefer of Vengerberg under her wing, teaching her everything she could, and even fixed Yennefer's hunchback and various other deformities. Yennefer did eventually graduate from Aretuza and went on to become the youngest member in the history of the Supreme Council of Sorcerers. Eventually, a war broke out throughout the northern kingdoms, and Yennefer took part in the Battle of Sodden Hill, where 14 mages were said to have perished, including Triss Merigold and Yennefer herself. Of course, we know that neither of these two sorceresses died at Sodden Hill, which came to be known as the Hill of the 14 because of the 14 deaths. However, Yennefer was blinded during the battle by Fringilla Vigo, a Nilfgaardian sorceress. Her sight eventually was restored, but this event caused even more anxiety, and she began to dwell on her past yet again. Wanting to be a mother more than anything, Yennefer traveled the world trying to restore her fertility through any means she could, as all sorceresses who attend Aretuza are stripped of their ability to bear children. As stated by Tissaia de Vries, no one can have everything. nobody is born a sorcerer, and none should be born as one. After all the students should decide for themselves whether they want to be sorceresses or mothers. I demand all the students be sterilized. No exceptions. And during her many travels to seek a remedy for this affliction, she eventually met Geralt the White Wolf. If you've watched our video on Geralt of Rivia, or if you've seen the first season of The Witcher, then you will know this story, but since it focuses primarily on Yennefer, and the show actually cut a lot of detail out of the story, I'll provide more of that detail here on the story of the Djinn, which takes place during The Last Wish. The story begins with Geralt and Dandelion, who were fishing for a meal when they got a massive 12-foot catfish on the line. The pair struggled with the great fish, but eventually the line snapped and their prize escaped. Geralt and Dandelion began to argue about who was at fault and eventually decided to pull their lines in and head back. As Dandelion pulled in a line, he realized that the line had caught an old jar that he thought might contain a genie, who would grant any 3 wishes that he desired. Geralt, realizing there was a mage's seal on the jar, tried to wrestle the jar from Dandelion, and during their struggle, the seal came off and the genie appeared. Dandelion immediately began to make wishes, but this only angered the genie, who lunged at Dandelion, grabbing him by the throat. Geralt attempted to battle the genie, but nothing seemed to drive it away. In a desperate attempt to save his friend, Geralt took the seal and used the words of an exorcism a priestess had taught him, which drove the genie off. And despite the Witcher's best efforts, Dandelion was badly injured, so Geralt rode for hours toward the town of Rin to find help. After arriving, the guards would not let them into the town before sunrise, so all they could do was wait. The 3 that were also waiting there offered their help, but quickly realized that Dandelion's injuries were magical and could not be mended with herbs alone. Eventually, the group revealed that there was only one known mage in town who could help. Yennefer of Vengerberg, who, despite the king's orders that no magic users could stay in Redania, was staying with an honorary Novigrad ambassador, which granted her asylum while she stayed with the nobleman, unlike in the show, where she was captured by the mayor. Geralt, not wasting any time after dawn had broken, went into town, knocked out the guard protecting the house that the sorceress was staying in, and inside found the ambassador naked and in a drunken stupor. While mostly incoherent, the nobleman did mention that there was a woman in the house who wanted apple juice before he fell back to sleep. Geralt grabbed the apple juice and then made his way up to the sorceress's room and gave her the drink. Geralt explained the situation, and impressed that he was able to drive the genie away, Yennefer asked how he did it, and Geralt reluctantly told her the phrase he used to deal with the Djinn. However, Yennefer remarked that it wasn't an exorcism at all, just a witty and very indecent comment, before asking what drove the Djinn away and the seal that had been on the bottle. Geralt hid the truth about the seal, pretending Dandelion had it. Then the 2 traveled by portal to the inn so that Yennefer could help Dandelion. After finishing her healing, Yennefer called the Witcher up to the room to see Dandelion, only to then release a magical trap on Geralt, and then revealing that she knew that he had the seal, not Dandelion. Yennefer cast a spell paralyzing the Witcher and told him that he could repay her for healing his friend by settling some of her accounts in Rind, and then placed a hypnotic spell on Geralt which caused him to black out. The next day, Geralt woke in a prison cell and found out that Yennefer had put a mind-controlling spell on him and used the Witcher to exact revenge on those who spoke out against Yennefer by embarrassing those people publicly. After being given the rundown of what happened, Geralt was then bothered by some guards who he wished out loud would burst, and those guards did in fact burst. And after this happened, everyone just assumed that it was Yennefer protecting Geralt, so he was brought before the mayor, Neville, to explain his crimes. After revealing almost the entire story to the mayor and his priest, the priest concluded that Yennefer wanted the Djinn as it would give the sorceress a great deal of power. Then, out of nowhere, Dandelion suddenly fell into the room through a portal, proclaiming Geralt was innocent, and that Yennefer had ordered him to state before the mayor his wish was for them to believe the Witcher wasn't guilty. They then quickly figured out that teleporting Dandelion and instructing him to say these things was Yennefer's way of getting Dandelion to use his third and final wish to free the genie so she could capture it. It was at this time that the genie appeared and began destroying the town, and wanting to save Yennefer, Geralt convinced the priest to reopen the portal Dandelion had come through, and before entering the portal, he asked what the words of the exorcism he said earlier meant, to which the priest stated it meant, "Get out of here and go f*** yourself." After arriving, Geralt attempted to convince Yennefer to stop and that the genie was too powerful. During the battle, the Jinn went to attack Yennefer, but Geralt got in the way and the Jinn stopped attacking. Geralt eventually revealed to Yennefer that he was the one holding the seal and his exorcism earlier would have been a wish, which is why the Jinn fled after Geralt quote-unquote wished for it to get out of here and go fuck itself. Geralt's second wish would have been wishing for the guard to burst, so realizing that he had one wish left, this was his chance to save Yennefer. And as a weakened Yennefer demanded Geralt to make his last wish so she could hopelessly try to capture the genie, Geralt finally realized what he wanted and what would also save Yennefer from the genie's wrath. So Geralt wished that their fates be tied together, and after making his final wish, the genie was freed and escaped back into its realm. After this, Geralt and Yennefer would have an on-again, off-again relationship, which would continue until the very end of the book series. Eventually, I'll go over all of the information that's in the novels and not just the short stories, but obviously, those are videos for another day. If you liked this video, remember to like and subscribe. It does really help us out. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, consider becoming a member. Also, comment down below what you want to see in the next Witcher video. And remember the motto, it's Yennefer of Vengerberg over everything. And I'll see you guys next time.